Hello, I'm Phil Svitek, 360 Creative Coach. And if you've been following me all week, you know that I'm doing these various lessons with my good friend, Will Abels.
Hey.
Plug your social media real quick. Might as well do it at the top.
Instagram's at Will Abels Comedy, Twitter's at Will Abels, and Facebook's at Will Abels Comedy.
Yeah, see, LA's a fun place in the sense that we catch up as friends over podcasts. So I've not seen Will in basically 10 years.
Yeah.
And this is how we catch up. And the thing I want to talk to you in this particular episode about is this idea of time management. Mm-hmm. Because we oftentimes think like time management's the only thing, but I think it's a Venn diagram of time management, attention management, and energy management.
Okay.
And because sometimes like you could be like, oh, I have some free time between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m., but if it's like your phone's blowing up, you're not getting shit done. Just because you put in your calendar that you have an hour, if your attention's being sucked every which way, you're not getting shit done. And to add to that, if you haven't had a good night's sleep, well, forget it.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, what are your thoughts on just that in general?
Yeah, I think it's hard to keep like that balance. I don't know. I guess for me personally, it took a long time for me to figure out how to balance my personal life with what I want to achieve as a comedian and managing myself and everything. Cutting out TV, that was a thing that I learned about myself. I was like, if I start like a new show, I will binge that show and I will get nothing done. And so I think it's about like learning your flaws. I mean, like it's not like but
well, prioritizing, right? Like
prioritizing,
what's important to you,
yeah,
versus like just acting on instinct,
right? And just kind of knowing yourself a little bit better and knowing like, okay, if I turn the TV on, I'm not going to get anything done. I'm going to watch this. I can't have the TV on in the background while I, contact.
So you still watch TV, just you don't have it in the background while you work. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, like what I'll do is I'll treat myself, and it might be the last thing I do, or if I finally have like a Saturday free, I'll like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to watch this show that I've wanted to watch. That's what I did last Saturday. I finally had a Saturday night off, and I have yet to see The Mandalorian. And even though everything's been spoiled about it, I was dog sitting, I watched the dog, and I watched the show and did the whole thing. And that was like, cool. That was my treat, and I'm not going to get to watch TV again until the next free time. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to look at it, because I think part of the problem, like when you consider like attention and energy and so forth, it's more so like we're unconscious about how we utilize our time. I think like that first pillar, time management, everyone's like, oh, there's just not enough time. And I think we focus on time to let people know like, no, you in fact do have time. You're just misusing it.
Yeah.
But it's not, like I said, it's not just about time. You gotta, when you get to work, like you said, turn off the TV, because that's an attention suck. And secondly, like that third sort of tier that I don't think most people talk about is that energy, because you can have attention and time, but if you
put the effort in,
exactly,
yeah,
like
exactly.
if you I mean, granted, if you haven't had a good night's sleep, or like you haven't slept in a couple of days or whatever, you're not going to be as productive.
Yeah, it just sucks all the energy out of you. Yeah,
I also want to kind of, you're kind of outside of the corporate world in this sense, but I feel like also in the corporate world, especially people always shoehorn in meetings and other stuff like that just based on purely time, as opposed to, okay, if we're going to have a creative meeting, well, maybe it's better to have it in the afternoon versus the morning, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Most people don't kind of consider that aspect of it.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe just talking to, your staff or whatever and finding out when are they the most productive versus when can we have this meeting, and I guess everyone's different, but just finding what you said, like the balance of, okay, at this time I'm the best at writing, so I'm going to cut that time out every single day to make sure that I am free to write or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it's tough. It's tough to figure that out, and it takes a long time, I think.
You've used the word balance a few times. So, like, how did you find the balance, and what does balance, like, just that as a term, mean to you?
I think, I don't know. When I have time to be productive, if I'm not using it to be productive, I make myself feel guilty. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you need to take a break. Like you need to have a half hour for lunch or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I think learning how to acknowledge that is the toughest part. But I don't know. Balance took a long.
Signal, like, are there like, if you're honestly hungry and like your stomach's growling at you, you're like, okay, maybe I should eat. Like, is that like?
Yeah, but I'm bad. I mean, that's just me personally. I'm bad about that kind of stuff. Like I'll just go through the day and I'm like, nah, I've been snacking, I'm fine. And then 8 o'clock rolls around and I'm like, I have not eaten, and now I have to go do a show. And then you get off stage and you're like, I still haven't eaten, and now it's 10 o'clock and it's just.
And you're about to go drinking.
And I'm about to go drinking. And I'm really bad about that stuff. But you know, that's what I've been working on the last few months, is going, all right, you can take half an hour. Like, all you're really doing right now is you're working on a flyer for a show that's not for 3 weeks. You know, you can, that flyer is halfway done. Take your half hour, go eat, and then come back into it. But I don't know. Balance is such a tough thing because, at least for me, I drive everywhere. So, you know, if I'm on a 7-hour drive, when I finish that, I usually only have like a couple hours before the show, and I don't really want to be booking more shows or managing myself, but I kind of have to, you know? And so I guess it's just putting the work in early in the week so that maybe later in the week you can find the little breaks.
So in another video that we did, you talked about like utilizing the time during those drives. You know, you're listening to podcasts, you're calling, let's say, friends, catching up and things like that. Are there strategies beyond that, you know, like especially a 7-hour drive? Like if I thought of that, I'd be like, okay, how do I maximize this? Like
what can I do?
What can I do? And like, you know, so that way I'm still essentially working, you know, like utilizing that time. Yeah.
I mean, it's, you know, the good thing about like Facebook Messenger, texting, or whatever it is, you know, I have my GPS up. I can at least see like, oh, hey, that show got back to me. So then I will schedule in like a pit stop so I can answer them and communicate with them. For the most part, though, I try and use that time when I can to maybe think of new jokes. And
do you like audio record them if like you get a joke? Because like obviously can't like write them down or anything like that.
Well, I try and write them down because I'm a crazy person. But no, what I usually do is if the joke comes in my head, I try and hold that joke for as long as I can, and I just go over it and over and over it. And then just, you know, drop stuff out, keep stuff in, or whatever. And I try and write the joke in my head so that I can maybe try it out the show that night, or just keep it there until I do have a chance to actually take a pit stop and write the whole thing out.
See, that would for me, that would drive me crazy because and some of my friends can attest to this. Like I'll be on the phone with them and I'll be hit with an idea and I'll be like, can you text this to me or write it down? Because like whatever you're about to say for the next 40 minutes, I'm not listening because I'm trying to hold this one idea.
Yeah. I mean, luckily it doesn't happen too often when I'm talking to someone, which is good. But my brother especially, he can always tell. He's like, what happened? You were talking to me and you just completely fell off. And I was like, you just
but you can't tell him like, hey, text me this.
I've never thought to do that. I should. I've never thought to be like, hey, can you send me this thing? I'm always like, oh, no, I gotta.
And like it like for me, I'll tell you from personal experience, it's funny what people tell me. Like I'll just be like, hey, text me photo Boston. Like what? Like it'll make sense to me. Trust me.
Yeah, I mean, that's how my notebook's structured that way, and I write down every set before I go on stage, but I don't write the jokes out. I just have trigger words that I use, and yeah, but I've tried that with jokes that I haven't written yet, and then I'll look at it and go, what is this? This means nothing to me right now. So that's why I try and keep it in my head for as long as I can until I can finally write the whole thing out. Because until it's I'm gonna say an A joke or whatever, like one I'm using on stage, if it's not polished, I won't remember it.
There you go. Well, I know we've sort of gotten away from the idea of the time management aspect of it, but it does actually, if you really think about it, right? So kind of taking a step back, all of this stuff does apply, because if you don't have specific strategies, you know, whether you're driving or whatever else in your life, you're not gonna be as productive, right? Ultimately, what's gonna keep your energy, your attention, and your time management skills honed is by having a system in place. And so the greater the system, the greater the questions that you're asking yourself to hone that system, the better all this stuff will be. And so hopefully we've at least been able to shed a little bit of light in terms of one particular aspect of Will's life.
Yeah. So how do you keep balance while you're like,
well, it's a big question. And I think sometimes too, people think like, okay, balance, you know, when you talk about this, balance is like an everyday thing. Like I got to have my yoga, I got to have my friends, and I also got to do my comedy. And it's like, no, balance is an overall thing. And there might be days where, okay, you won't get to do the yoga, but you get to hang out with friends and do your comedy. Or, you know what, like right now it's extremely heavy. Like there's so much I got going on for work, so I'm not going to see my friends or be able to do yoga for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then after that, I'll rebalance it, and, you know, work's going to be less. I'm going to focus on my friends and yoga. I don't know why I keep using yoga, but
yeah, apparently you want to be doing some yoga. I think in a weird way, I think maybe flexibility kind of helps in that way for time management, because it's, you do have your schedule and you want to keep that schedule, but sometimes you have to adjust it. And so you can't be, I don't know, have the things that work for you, but you don't be strict about it. Because I think that's when you start getting upset or you get frustrated and you're like, okay, well, I wanted to do this and I didn't get a chance to do it. And it's like, it's okay. There's tomorrow or there's the next day,
That is very true. That is very true.
Yeah.
So maybe you agree with us, maybe you disagree. Either way, I encourage you to comment, ask questions, let us know what you thought. And also, for more direct interaction, by all means, hit us up on social media. I'm at Phil Svitek.
And I'm at Will Abel's Comedy.
And if you want to know more from Will, definitely check out his social media for all his comedy shows and things like that. You also have a Facebook page.
Yep, Will Abel's Comedy.
And an album.
And yeah, my album's called Regrets of My Father, and you can get it on iTunes or check it out on, I'm not going to say Spotify because they don't really pay anything, but you can check it out on Pandora or Spotify if you hate me. Yeah.
Fair enough. Thank you for joining us. I know your time is extremely precious, so we truly appreciate it. And if you haven't already, feel free to subscribe and follow, share with a friend. That way they get the benefit of learning all these various lessons too, or thinking about the things we pose. Until next time.